High above the dusty moon, I could see the desert planet hanging far in the distance. It made me wonder if it was anything like my home in the Sonoran Desert. I missed the familiar sights of the towering saguaro and organ pipe cacti, the rich, resilient wildlife, and the distinctive climate defined by mild winters and intense summer monsoons. At night back home, I used to look up at the stars and the Milky Way with such awe, wondering if I would ever visit a world outside our solar system. Now, here I am, stranded in another galaxy entirely. The year is 2142. Back in our system, humanity had mastered the void. The Vanguard fleet navigated the solar system in record time, thanks to the advent of quantum fold engines. To put it in perspective, a routine flight to Mars took barely 45 minutes, and we could reach the icy fringes of Pluto in under 3 days. This massive leap forward was spearheaded by synthetic intelligence, specifically the Global Heuristic Core, an AI that accelerated our understanding of material sciences by centuries in a matter of decades. It unlocked the secrets of stabilizing cold fusion and harvesting ambient dark matter, providing limitless, clean energy that fueled both our world and the cutting-edge Vanguard ships. I started thinking about my fallen family, how my wife of 6 years and my 17-year-old daughter were suddenly taken from me during the outbreak of 38. It was a hyper-lethal viral pathogen that swept through Earth's most densely populated sectors. The virus devastated the global population, but it left the infrastructure and the Vanguard fleet completely intact. Not a day goes by that I don't hear their voices in my mind. I can still hear their laughs. Since the day the world went quiet, I threw myself into deep space exploration, desperate to be as far away from the empty, haunting reminders of Earth as possible. Today would have been my birthday. I am turning 40. Thanks to modern telomere restoration therapy and cellular senescence inhibitors, human lifespans now easily stretch past 150 years. At 40, I'm biologically still just a young adult. My parents named me Christopher after Christopher L. Williams, a well-known NASA astronaut and one of the most prominent contemporary figures in space travel. I guess I was always destined for the stars. My last name, Luck, has English and German roots dating back to the 16th century, and it has served me well over the years. It has almost felt magical in nature, getting me out of trouble more times than I can count. For instance, during a routine survey near the rings of Saturn, a rogue micrometeoroid shredded my tether and ruptured my life support. I barely escaped with my life by intentionally venting my secondary oxygen tank to propel myself back to the airlock, slipping inside with only seconds of consciousness left. I feel like I have a superpower that makes me take chances no other person in their right mind would dare. Some say I am just suicidal, but I think it's just how I get my dopamine fix. My thoughts of the past slowly faded away, leaving me in the quiet cockpit with only the rhythmic digital beeps of the instrument panels for company. As I stared into the beautiful, vast expanse of space, I wondered if there was a version of me and my family out there somewhere. As of now, it seemed my ship was only capable of getting around this local solar system quickly, lacking the power to travel to other galaxies, if that was even possible anymore. I needed to find a civilization to get more answers about this universe and how I might have ended up here. I began my approach to the desert planet and quickly entered its atmosphere. From the sky, it was clear the planet was blisteringly hot and barren. There were hardy plants and sparse patches of grass clinging to the ground, but the majority of the large plant life consisted of towering cacti, remarkably similar to those on Earth. Additionally, massive yellow stone pillars shot up from the crust, oozing a thick yellow sap. Nicaster C-44 hung high in the sky, framed by its moons. After traveling for some time and admiring this alien world, I noticed a colossal structure in the distance, reaching high into the sky. Countless ships were landing and launching from its base. Could this be the intelligent life I had been looking for? Should I even land there? What if they were hostile? I knew I had luck on my side, so I decided to risk it. I approached an open landing pad and set the ship down perfectly. Scanning my surroundings, I saw ships of all makes and models resting on the adjacent platforms. Imposing, humanoid creatures were tending to their vessels. They were large, muscular figures with heavily textured, bulbous foreheads, deep-set eyes beneath heavy, protruding brows, and wide, prominent lips. Their most striking feature was a heavy chin, adorned with thick, segmented, tube-like tendrils. I froze for a moment, terrified that one of them would look my way, until I remembered I was still wearing my helmet. These creatures wouldn't instantly know I was an anomaly from a distant galaxy. I decided to exit the cockpit and head into the main concourse where they were gathering. I assumed they were swapping adventure stories, signing up for missions, or trading goods. As I approached the first station on the deck, I saw a sign covered in writing I couldn't comprehend. One of the creatures sat behind a desk. It had a scaly, orange-hued forehead with a small green gem embedded in the center, and its lower jaw featured those same thick, mechanical-looking tendrils. It held a data tablet, seemingly waiting for me to speak. My disguise was working. The creature didn't appear alarmed. I offered a hesitant, "Hello," but the massive humanoid just blinked, and suddenly, a holographic list of items projected directly into my visor. This was a merchant, selling various goods and blueprints. Through my visor's interface, I could also see my name and my current balances of units, nanites, and quicksilver, evidently the local currencies. In the bottom left corner of my HUD, the words Technology Merchant Inro appeared, followed by the subtitle, Vi Keen Technology Merchant. I quickly deciphered that Vi Keen was the name of this particular alien race. After browsing the inventory, I switched the interface to view the available blueprints. The screen was littered with exotic technology meant to upgrade exosuits and starships. One schematic caught my eye, the advanced mining laser. The description indicated it could harvest the dense materials I hadn't been able to crack back on the dusty moon. Deciding this would be incredibly useful, I made the purchase, watching the funds seamlessly deduct from my nanite pool. The upgrade required specific components to build, but I could worry about sourcing those later. I gave the Vikeen merchant a polite salute and moved on. The second Vikeen I visited manned a booth for an explorer's guild. My visor noted my standing with them as unknown, suggesting I could redeem better items if I improved my reputation. The alien rumbled something at me, but the guttural syllables meant nothing. When I failed to respond, he shook his head in obvious disappointment. All I could do was shrug and step away from the table. Next, I approached the core of the station. A massive, automated machine hummed in the background, sorting cargo containers behind an interactive touchscreen. To my left, two Vikeen were conversing with a different, distinctly non-Vikeen entity. My luck had held out so far, so I decided to see if I could learn anything from them. I walked over, and they looked down at me with heavy confusion. I gave a small wave, and the Vikeen closest to my right barked a harsh phrase. Taking a chance, I spoke clearly. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand your language." They exchanged a bewildered glance, but then my visor flashed, presenting me with 3 dialogue options. The suit's AI had determined the Vikeen was open to interacting and was offering to teach me a word, practice what I knew, or accept a gift. Seizing the opportunity to bridge the language gap, I selected Request Dialect Help. I was then prompted to choose a category: Technology, Aggression, Mystery, or Vikeen Symbol. I chose Technology. The alien grunted, and the word weapon materialized in my visor, permanently cataloged in my translation matrix. Encouraged, I spoke with the other Vy'keen at the station, learning additional words to add to my database. I learned interloping, interlopers, gra-gra, and interlope. They seemed fixated on using the word interlope when referring to me. I queried my visor for the definition, and it returned: to become involved in a place or situation where one is not wanted or is considered not to belong. Ouch. Deciding it was best not to push my luck or accidentally escalate the situation with the other alien race, I briskly headed back to my ship. Safe inside the cockpit, my mind was racing. Adrenaline pumped through my veins. I was the first human from Earth to make contact with intelligent extraterrestrial life. The tragedy was that I had absolutely no one to share it with. So far, I had encountered 2 separate alien races on a sprawling space station. Was this all an elaborate dream? Pondering my next move, I knew I wasn't going to get much immediate help from the Vy'keen, not when every conversation was a massive linguistic hurdle. It would take considerable time to learn their language, word by word. I assumed it would be the exact same story with the other species in this galaxy. My visor was excellent at translating digital menus and technology interfaces, but it struggled to interpret live verbal communication. However, on my descent to the desert planet, my scanners had picked up another moon, categorized as a paradise moon, that I hadn't noticed before. If there was anywhere to lay down roots and build a proper base of operations, a paradise seemed like the perfect candidate. With no pressing reason to linger in the sweltering desert, I powered up the engines and set my trajectory. Paradise, here I come.